and welcome to Off the Rack. I'm Shelley Beyer, and this is part 3 of my Becoming series, Living in a Body That Feels Like Home. This episode is personal, not just because of what happened on the outside, but because of everything that shifted on the inside. So let's start here. After surgery, there's this surreal moment where everything slows down. And for a second, you forget that anything's changed. You're back home, you're wearing your surgical bra, and everything feels a little foggy, a little tender, and a little uncertain. But then it hits you. You did it. Something you wanted for years, maybe decades, it's done. And for me, that moment came in waves. It wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, but it felt enormous. I had done it. After all of the overthinking, the research, the fear, the emotional labor, the inner work, it was done. And I felt this full body wash of gratitude. Even though I knew I still had a lot of healing ahead, I felt different, lighter, clearer, more grounded in myself than I had ever felt before. That clarity didn't come from a mirror. It came from something much deeper, something spiritual. See, this wasn't just physical healing. This was the last leg of a much longer journey, a karmic cycle I had been working to close for years. And it didn't hit me until after the surgery that this was it, the final piece, the moment where all the emotional and energetic healing I had done could finally land in my body. It was like my spirit and my physical self finally caught up with each other. And I didn't know how badly I needed that until I felt it. Now, that doesn't mean everything was easy. There were emotional layers that surfaced in unexpected ways. One of the biggest shifts was in how I saw my reflection. Before surgery, I wasn't mean to myself in the mirror. I've done too much inner healing work for that. But I wasn't especially kind either. I tolerated what I saw. I managed it. I worked around it. But I didn't feel connected to it. And my breasts, they never felt like mine. But now there's this quiet pause when I catch myself in the mirror, not to criticize, but to see. I remember one moment not long after restrictions were lifted when I slipped on a fitted shirt I hadn't worn in years. And for the first time, I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because something finally felt aligned. My body looked like how I felt, lighter, calmer, more like me. That shift didn't just change how I saw myself, it changed how I moved through the world. I remember walking into the salon a few weeks later, and my esthetician and my hairstylist were sitting in the lobby, and they both looked up at me and said, "Wow, you're glowing." And I received it fully, not with deflection, not with nervous laughter, not with a rushed, "Oh, thank you," but with presence, with appreciation. Because they weren't complimenting my body, they were seeing the lightness in me, the alignment, the joy. And I felt it too. There was another moment that hit me even deeper. I had gone in for a follow up at my surgeon's office, and when he walked into the room, he said, "I saw you out there in the lobby. You were glowing." And I was, because I felt free. The pain, the heaviness, the disconnect, it was gone. And in its place was the settled, open hearted sense of self. That's the best word for it, really. Settled. Not hyper, not performative, not look at me, I'm finally fixed. Just calm, present, grounded. There was also this beautiful, unexpected shift in how I engaged with the world around me. I started smiling at people in the grocery store, on the sidewalk, in the elevator, in the shoe aisle. I didn't realize how much I had been shrinking myself until I stopped. And it wasn't about showing off a new body. It was about sharing energy, joy, light, ease. I wanted to give that to other people because I finally had it in myself. And when you're full of that kind of light, you can't help but radiate it. Now, I'll be honest, there were moments of disorientation too. Moments where I'd catch my reflection and think, is that really me? Moments where I'd go to the store and pick up a size large and realize that's not my size anymore. There's a kind of body dysmorphia that can happen, even when you're happy, even when you love the change, because your mind takes longer to catch up than your body does. You walk by the plus size section and think, that's where I belong. And then you have to remind yourself gently, that's not me anymore. It takes time and grace and repetition, but eventually you catch up. Your mind and body begin to match. And that's when the real ease begins. One of the most emotional moments for me was going to get fitted for a new bra. It's something almost every woman looks forward to post reduction. But for me, it was even bigger than I expected. When they told me I was a B, maybe a C, depending on the brand, I was floored. I knew I was smaller, but that small? That was a whole new reality. I stood there feeling the fabric, the fit, the lightness, and I could barely hold back the emotion because it wasn't just about the cup size. It was about the woman wearing it. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged in that body, like I had finally come home to myself. That's what I want every woman listening to know. This isn't about vanity. It's not about chasing a perfect body. It's about choosing alignment, choosing freedom, choosing to live inside a body that feels like yours. And that doesn't come from surgery alone. It comes from doing the emotional work, the energetic work, the spiritual work, and then choosing yourself. If I could go back and talk to the version of me who was preparing for surgery, nervous, second guessing every detail, I'd sit beside her and say, you're not doing this because you hate yourself. You're doing this because you're finally ready to love yourself enough to stop living in pain. I tell her, this will change everything. Not because of how you look, but because of how you'll feel. And that feeling, it will touch every corner of your life. I'd remind her that fear is normal, doubt is normal, but neither of those things mean you're making the wrong choice. They just mean the choice matters. So wherever you are on this journey, whether it's pre-op, post-op, or simply thinking about it, know this. Your body is not the problem. Your story is not too late. And your desire for relief, alignment, beauty, comfort, wholeness, that is not selfish. That is sacred. And you are allowed to choose it. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Until next time, be gentle with your heart and kind to your body, and willing to live in a body that finally feels like home.